Welcome back, Nuggets. This mother clucker's got some thoughts. Let's ruffle some feathers and get into the video. And if you would like to support my baby chick of a channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hype this video, and go check out my other videos while you're here. Okay, my nuggets, here we are. More breaking news because the shit just never stops raining in Girl World, does it? Anyway, today is about Girl World, and specifically a reaction channel. Yes, that reaction channel, the now infamous Rachel, who has gone down in Girl World history for indeed touching the poo. And unfortunately, I think we may be coining this now, doing a Rachel. Now, my intent for this video, I want to be really clear from the top that I think that this is a topic that will be quite divisive in Girl World. And one thing that you absolutely will not get me to do is to pick a team here, because here's what I predict. I think Girl World will begin to split into those who, quote unquote, don't take themselves too seriously and know this is just a drama community and have fun, and into those that think that there are ethical boundaries that are being crossed in this kind of space, in this thing that's been happening. I think it's really important to put everything on the table and look at it all, and then have each and every one of you think for yourselves to come to your own conclusions on this, because everybody's conclusion is going to be different based on their own history, based on their own perspectives, and based on their own set of ethical boundaries. So it's really, really important that we go into this and just look at what it is. Each and every one of you can make up your own minds. You're all adults. So in case you missed it, there's been a little bit of a scandal that has unraveled surrounding Rachel Reacts. Now, based on what's come out, I will just put a little bit of my opinion forward and say that this is a channel that I really liked, and the fact that she weaves philosophy into her Girl World videos, which is also something that I like to do. And so I saw this channel as kind of a like-minded space. And given some of the stuff that's come out, I will say I am a little bit disappointed about how this has gone, and perhaps a little bit of misjudgment on my behalf, maybe on a lot of our behalf. But since this has been going down, I actually pulled the Social Blade statistics for Rachel and her channel, and you can see that she peaked at about 65.5 thousand, and it has been diminishing fairly rapidly. At the point of recording, she's now sitting at 58.4 thousand, and this is declining so fast you can almost sit there and refresh the page and see another 100 people drop off. So this situation is not resonating with the community. And that is a shame to see, because of course we just saw her channel really spike quite rapidly with all of this Emily expose stuff. And now we appear to be observing the laws of gravity. So I am going to go through the timeline of what's been unfolding so far, and I will also be reacting to portions of the video that Rachel has just put out. Now, this video is already being heavily ratioed. She's sitting at about a 1/3 to 2/3 like versus dislike ratio, and that's some Amber Lynn numbers right there. But I think this is her community trying to communicate to her that they aren't happy with the way things are being handled, and they're not happy with the level of transparency, and something needs to shift. So as you know, Rachel released a couple of videos that were in collaboration with Emily, releasing a whole bunch of screenshots about basically how much of a heinous human being Amber is. Now, she was getting some flack for this at the time because she was taking quite a sympathetic tone towards Emily. I know that a lot of people had a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that, and I'll tell you why. Because she was trying to get information out of Emily. You know, when you're in that kind of situation, Although there are many things that you might like to say to the individual, a certain amount of diplomacy is going to be required in order to run your own agenda and get the information that you want. But then after one of the videos, and we were under the assumption that there were more to come. This was the second video out, I believe. Rachel put up a post on her community tab saying, "Hi all, Emily has withdrawn consent for her voice to be used on my channel. To avoid any future issues or privacy concerns, I have privated my previous video. Many thanks for the continued support of my channel, heart." So at this point, I think we were all like, oh, so has Emily gone back to Amber at this point? And look, for the record, yes, I think Emily is back with Amber. I think this is a very messy, very on again, off again relationship. And there is nothing in either of their history that would lead me to think that that is not happening. So then a few days after that, now I did actually see that video and I did listen to the voice note. I didn't grab it at the time, yet again, cursing my past Chooken self for not grabbing things. And there's yet another example in this video to come. But a few days after that, Rachel then posted this very lengthy post on her community tab. Now, I'm going to read it out because there are a couple of important things that I just want to highlight. But if you've heard this 7 million times on all different reaction channels, I'm going to give you a time code so that you can skip it and I'll discuss it after. So Rachel said, "Hi guys, I'm exposing my own cluck up below for transparency. Obviously, there was a fair bit of context which I left out in my last post after I privated my last video with Emily's voice note. Basically, Emily gave me the voice note, screenshots, and a clip, which I ended up not using. It was not the rage video. And I had consent to use them with no strings attached. Prior to this, Emily had told me some pretty damning information about Amber owing her lots of money for the trip they took where Emily drove Amber home. I wanted the receipts for this pretty bad, but I didn't think it was something Emily would be super keen on sharing. So I very stupidly offered Emily that if she was willing to give me these receipts, I would split the AdSense on that separate, in brackets, finance related video with her. Later, once the voice note video was well underway, Emily asked me if we could just split the AdSense from the voice note video instead of the finance one, as she felt it made no difference. I, again stupidly, said yes, thinking, well, we were going to split the finance video anyway, so it really makes no difference if we had just split this one instead. It is essential to note that Emily had already given me consent to use the voice note prior to this rearrangement of which video would be split. She also never sent the finance receipts she had mentioned. She did not let me use the voice note because of any money. She had already said yes to this, and then the agreement was quote unquote transferred. I then became very suspicious that Emily and Amber were talking again. Amber deleted her lives, posted that statement, and it was clear that Emily and Amber were not done with each other. I thought, despite her shitty character, that receipts coming from Emily was still valuable, and showing these did not mean I was defending her. However, it became clear to me that my good intentions were being taken for granted, that Emily did not just want to provide receipts, but in fact, she viewed my videos as payback to Amber for their own personal dramas. I was not comfortable being used as a pawn in their wider game. I therefore decided that there was no way on earth that I was going to pay this person to make me look like a mug. I told her as much, told her I would happily donate this portion to charity instead so that I would not benefit from the decision. She got very angry, suddenly blamed my video for her being harassed, despite having been okay with it prior. She did not want the money to go to charity. She wanted to be paid. She tried to make it sound like she had not given me consent to use the voice note already. She had, and I can prove it. Just a side note there, we'll get there. And she gave me an ultimatum to pay her or take my video down. I wasn't paying her, so I took the video down, and now it's back up. I acknowledge that I was an absolute clucking idiot for offering her money under any circumstances, and it was also wrong to do so and then change my mind afterwards. At the time, There was absolutely no way that I could, in good faith to my audience, allow a single penny of the AdSense money from your viewership to go to Emily when it was clear that she was enjoying these weird mind games between herself and Amber and viewed videos made by me as quote unquote punishment to Amber. This was icky to me. I wanted receipts, that was all. I was mad about Amber still owing Beck the inheritance money, and I wanted everyone to know that Amber had financially screwed over another ex. And therefore, I made an offer I shouldn't have made and realized that it was a mistake too late. I understand if people are mad at me for this, the portion offered to Emily will instead go to charity on or around November 26th. I will post the donation receipt here. Emily's response to this situation proved that my intuition was right. Her intention was never to get her story out as a DV victim, and I was wearing some serious rose gold glasses in pursuit of receipts. Sorry for being a twat. I did get some interesting receipts though. Please see this Venmo where Amber was blocked on all platforms, so sent Emily $1 because she wanted her to answer the phone. Okay, so there's a couple of things here that at the time kind of stood out to me, and now we have a little bit more context that raise even more questions for me. But before we get into that, let's just go through some of the screenshots that have been released from a Discord that Rachel was involved in, and that will be able to tie in the questions that I really have surrounding this. So according to a Salty Crab video that has just been released, and it's a good video, I recommend you go watch it. This Discord, it was presented to her originally as a place where creators could get together and speak about Girl World. But she said that when she got there, she realized that there's actually viewers as well as creators involved. So the sheer fact that there are viewers there indicates to me that this is not really a private Discord. This is just a place where everybody can go and discuss Girl World. And I think that that is a very important part about this whole saga that's going on, and it will be a running theme as we go through. Now, I am either too new or not cool enough to actually be invited to this Discord. And to be completely honest with you, Nuggets, even if I had have been invited into this, I wouldn't have gone because I deeply hate Discord as a platform. Does it not seem that every time there is a scandal, Discord is somehow woven into it? And I don't think that's Discord itself as a platform, but the way people are using it. It's just, it doesn't seem like a healthy place. Call me old-fashioned, I'd rather sit around on forums. So the first screenshot that's been released, now these were released on Charlie Gold's X account. Hector Kana said, "So are you going to give the money to Beck?" The comments were pretty overwhelming in favor of that, referencing the post that we just read through. Rachel said, "I don't think so, to be honest. Feels wrong. I can't explain why, but I can see how it's a huge cluck you to them both," referencing Emily and Amber. "So I can see the appeal. I might do a poll and then blame it on that. I don't know. But the poll would be Beck, so I've got the time to think on it. If I do a charity, I can write it off on my taxes. Ha ha." So this is her running through in her head that she doesn't know what she's going to do with Emily's half of the AdSense. And she had already at this point put up that post on her community tab. So she knows full well, because all of the comments as you scroll, it's just Beck, 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 Beck. A viewer of Girl World said, "I think that's best, to be honest." Rachel replied, "It feels cleaner." Another viewer replied, so you can really see this is not a private Discord. So another viewer replied, "I didn't understand why people even suggested it until I reread the statement a second time, but both from an accounts and moral point of view, I think a charity with a registered charity number is best." Rachel replied, "I don't know why. Yeah, I lean this way also, but there's something satisfying and petty about giving it to Beck. Ha ha. I'll think about it." Now, clearly she did go and think about it, because in a video after this, she did say that she was going to give it to Beck. And this might be a little bit of a hot take, my nuggets. I actually feel weird about that myself, just because the way this has all gone down, none of this should have happened. This was bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And while I do totally agree that Beck could absolutely use the money and that there is good retribution to be had there, It just feels like it gets even more personal than it needs to, but that's my opinion. Just a humble chicken over here. So then on to the next really hot topic of these released screenshots, and that is Rachel flirting with Emily. So Rachel said she sent me a video of her smoking. Now, just some of you did ask on my last video, is this the video that she's talking about that my last video was on? I don't think so. I think this was a separate thing. So Rachel said she sent me a video of her smoking. A viewer said, "That's weird?" question mark. And then Jawbone, another reaction channel, said, "Oh, that feels like her dipping her toe into video calling." Rachel said, "I flirted a little, not gonna lie, I wanted the tea." A viewer responded saying, delicious cancer stick in an ashtray mouth, delicious." I sense the vibe of this person. I agree, totally get it. Rachel said, "It got a bit uncomfortable, not gonna lie. I'm a big old flirt," and she took the bait. "But that's how I got the tea, so." Jawbone responded, "It's okay to fancy Emily. To be honest with us, we listen and we don't judge." Rachel did a shrugging emoji and said, "I'll show you the smoking video tomorrow." So I do think that it's worth noting here that Rachel is not denying fancying Emily in this, and she's admitting to engaging in flirting. The degree of this we will discuss a little bit further on in the video. So if we go back to that post on the community tab, this is what raises some questions for me. At the time, she said that she's exposing her own cluck up for transparency. Now, transparency is something that I hold very important in my channel, and I know that I am still quite a new channel, so you may not know that you can trust this in me, but the way that I operate is anytime I have an interaction with a public figure, you hear about it. So for example, you've heard that I had an email with Salty Crab to use her videos. You also saw that on my post tab, I put in what I had discussed with Amber for her potential interview. And this is going to be something that I maintain moving forward, because I think that when you're running a channel and you have an audience, I think dealing with these kind of messy people, and that's also why largely I've decided not to deal with these messy people. But when you do, you really open yourself up and make yourself vulnerable. And so transparency is going to be a little log that helps protect you. Now, I do appreciate Rachel coming forward and having this transparency at some point, like better late than never. But if there was a monetary agreement with Emily, I think that should have been mentioned up front as soon as it was discussed. So, for example, whenever they had that conversation, the very next video, just at the beginning, "Hey guys, this is what I'm planning on doing. I have a financial agreement with Emily, and this is what you can expect from us moving forward. And this is the agreement that we've made." That's the kind of transparency that I would have expected. But like I say, better late than never. Who am I to put my values on other people? They can conduct their channels how they want. I'll conduct my channel how I want. But yeah, that's something that is already well thought out. Now, the other point is this is working against Rachel, because splitting AdSense feels much more like a collaboration than, say, doing a one-off payment for information, which feels a little bit more journalistic or a little bit more like a business transaction. By inviting Emily into her AdSense payments, it's kind of, do you get what I mean? It's kind of much more collaborative. And the fact that Emily had raised, well, can you just split the AdSense on this other video rather than the one that we had agreed, because it won't make any difference? Well, it does make a difference, because, for example, her first expose video was age restricted. So had they agreed to split that one, there would have been very little money from that one compared to one that hadn't been age restricted, because we are talking about hundreds of thousands of views. She would have made bank on these. So again, these kind of decisions mixed with the flirting allegations really make the vibe of this relationship seem a little bit more close-knit than it potentially is. And that's problematic for Rachel. So whether or not there is a relationship going on there or just a little bit of casual flirting, as she mentioned, none of us are going to know. Also, in the next paragraph, and quote, I then became very suspicious that Emily and Amber were talking again. Now, on the surface of this, I think when we first saw it, that line did stand out to me. And I kind of thought about it and I thought, yeah, well, maybe she's worried about her source, reneging on the deal. Maybe she just really wants to get these out, and that's the end of it. But then knowing about the flirting allegations behind the scenes, that can move context from looking at that as, oh, that is a reaction channel trying to protect their source for this scoop that they've got, to, is this a potential future love interest trying to prevent focus of affection from going back to the ex? Do you get what I mean? It starts to look really messy when we have a little bit more context here. Because, and I quote, and it was clear that Emily and Amber were not done with each other. And even if you are a reaction channel with a scoop, I don't necessarily know that that would be an issue, because like we all know that they've been back and forth. We know that that's a possibility. Does Amber in this equation really matter for the expose screenshots? So the money bit gets really messy, and we're going to go into that a little bit more later on as well. But I found a clip from an Alex's Shook live, and he actually said it really well. This is what he said.
And then Rachel replies, I flirted a little, not gonna lie. I wanted the tea. Okay, so this is honestly what people were saying for a while, that there was something more there. Like, this wasn't just about getting tea. I think there was something more there, because why would Rachel feel like she would have to flirt for the tea? I feel like, look at Snowflake. Look at Snowflake. Like, it's not like he flirted with Emily to get the tea. Like, Emily has been pretty upfront with throwing shit out there.
That's a really good point. Why does she feel like she would need to flirt in order to get the tea, when prior to that, Emily was pretty much talking to anyone and everyone who sent her a DM on Instagram? She was more than willing to divulge information. Case in point, the Mr. Snowflake expose, which had only happened like, what, a month prior. So that does raise some questions, right? Was this a business relationship of a reaction channel who was trying to just get their name out there and just get a little bit more notoriety? Or was there something deeper going on? And was this a new girlfriend trying to badmouth an ex-girlfriend? Now, Rachel's problem is the fact that she has already undermined her credibility with not being transparent with the money stuff. She's now put herself in a position where we're seeing these dots and we don't know how they're connected. We don't know what order they're connected in, or necessarily how seriously they're connected. And I think that is a very, very vulnerable spot that Rachel has put herself in. So like I say, this is just a series of bad decisions that I think have reached critical mass, and who knows what else is going to be coming out about this. So regarding the relationship stuff, what do you think? Do you think this was just a little bit of idle flirting? We're going to hear what Rachel has to say about it, but do you think at this point this is just a bit of idle flirting, or do you think where there's smoke there's fire? Let me know. Okay, so now I want to react to the video that Rachel put out today. Now, this video was entitled Exposing Everything with Screenshots. And something that I observed watching this is there is a little bit of double talk. Like, she's kind of talking out of both sides of her mouth at the same time. And I do want to highlight these moments, but something that I want you to keep in mind, Rachel is a relatively new channel. Actually, I didn't realize this until I went looking at her statistics, but she and I actually started in Girl World at around the same time. She started with an existing platform, which would have helped a little bit, but she has had a meteoric rise in this space. And I do think that it's possible that she's never dealt with anything like this before. It's possible that she's never dealt with being viral before. And as I've mentioned in my past videos, my nuggets, don't think that this is my first rodeo. It is my second rodeo. No, I have some experience in the space, and it's possible that maybe Rachel has not seen this kind of thing before. I do think it's worth keeping in mind that I think she is spiraling. I think she is nowhere near as calm and as level-headed as what maybe she would like us to think. And I think the philosophy facade is slipping. I will explain why I think that.
So my goal in this video is to basically just tell you everything I can possibly tell you, get it all out so you know exactly what there is to know, and then you can think about it and talk about it amongst yourselves in your communities and such.
So this is a really good start. That what this is presenting is, I'm just going to show you everything. Keep that in mind. I'm going to show you everything and just tell you what's happened, and then everyone can know everything and we can all talk about it as we are, my nuggets.
The next thing we need to talk about is the Discord. So we've had loads and loads of messages and people talking about this Discord. So it's absolutely true. There was a private Discord, which consisted of a few people, and all of us trusted each other very well, and we were friends, and we were all talking about Girl World related stuff. That Discord was a place where we chatted like mates. I'm sure you've all got mates. You run your mouth with your mates in a way that you wouldn't do on your public YouTube channel.
So I do find that a little bit condescending. You know, you've all got mates, you know how you talk, you probably wouldn't do it in a professional setting in the same way. And that is all well and good. That is absolutely true. But what Rachel is describing is not a private Discord. It was not her and just a few mates. It was her and other creators and viewers. This is not a private space. This is essentially, from a creation standpoint, if you view a channel like a personal business, then essentially that is a forum in which she is conducting her business. So this is why I say maybe she's just never encountered needing this kind of level of professionalism before. But straight off the bat, as soon as you know that there are other creators and there are viewers in there, this needs to be a space in which you conduct yourself professionally. However, you have defined that as your channel. But Rachel's channel absolutely has a vibe of professionalism and level-headedness, which means that she needs to continue that conduct in all of her dealings, because this is not just a mate that she's discussing this with.
So, of course, as you guys all know, because you've all seen, somebody who was in that Discord has no fucking backbone, didn't want to tell me that they disagreed with my takes, and instead screenshotted a load of the Discord and sent those screenshots out.
Now, I am going to have some criticism here, because this phrasing is nothing short of passive aggressive. She is clearly very upset that this has happened. She feels like her privacy has been violated, and she doesn't like that this person has gone and spread these screenshots in a quote-unquote private friend-based Discord. And I do think that I think she's showing a bit of naivete here, that she would possibly think that this wouldn't happen because this was a public forum.
They then sent all of those screenshots to someone who then shared some of that stuff. That person did not blur the face and name of some of the individuals in those screenshots who are not public figures, which I'm really angry about, because some of those people have all kinds of personal stuff going on in their lives. They don't want their faces and names to be made public, and yet they were.
I actually agree with that. I think that all non-public people should be blurred, which is why I've then gone and blurred them in my videos, even though I know much larger channels have exposed their faces and names. I just don't really want to be, to contribute to that. This is another example of why I think Rachel is absolutely unwinding and seething under the surface of these statements, because this is a little bit of a misdirect tactic that we're now going off topic and we're going to moral grandstand about the blurred faces of the people that she wants to protect rather than dealing with the issue at hand directly. And she doesn't continue to do this in the video, to her credit. She does actually face things head on, but I think it's just these little bits of fraying on the edges that we can see that she's really struggling with this, understandably so. It does not feel good to have the internet against you. It does not feel good to be inundated with hate comments. And it definitely doesn't feel good to see something that you've created suddenly fall as rapidly as it is. But I just want you to kind of see behind what's happening here behaviorally.
The screenshots got out. The person who shared the screenshots, it will get out who that person was. And you will all be very surprised. I think I was very surprised, provided that I'm right about who I think it is, which I think I am, but obviously I won't say anything until I'm sure.
Now, something that is good here, she's not naming names. We do know that it was Charlie Gold who went onto X and put the shots up. I know that a lot of people in this video are theorizing that it was Salty Crab, but it doesn't look like... I don't know if that makes sense that Salty Crab would then send them to Charlie Gold. So I don't know that it is Salty Crab. I don't know either way. Yeah, we don't know who the person is at this stage, as far as I know, who actually leaked these screenshots.
But basically, that Discord was a bunch of people who I thought of as friends, mates, fellow creators, who would chat and spitball and bounce ideas off each other. A lot of sarcasm and stupidity was said in that chat. I am going to cover all that stuff. This is not me sweeping it under the rug and saying a lot of stuff was said.
I think that's all well and good. I think she was very trusting in those moments. And to be fair, from the screenshots that have been shown, I do think I see the sense of humor that's happening in that Discord. But you have to understand that when you're a public figure and then you're using your same name and your same image and your same persona in a public space, you've got to know that's going to get out in some way, and that it's probably not going to be taken in the context in which you meant it. I think when you're in this situation as a public figure, you need to be very mindful about what's being said in print. Never mind that we're living in a time where we can just concoct these things so easily, even without skills, just to avoid the appearance of impropriety, if that makes sense.
Of course, we all knew there was a chance that it might end up being made public. Nobody thought that that would actually happen.
So she says here, this is why I say there's a lot of doublespeak that shows that she is nowhere near as together in this video as what she usually presents. And again, totally understandable. But she says, of course, we all knew that it was a possibility that it would get out, but none of us thought it would. So one of those things is true, one of them isn't. The reality is they probably thought they were all messing around with each other and everything was fine and nobody would care, I think, is probably more the point.
This person who was in the Discord sent a bunch of screenshots from the Discord to somebody else. That person then started tweeting those screenshots and putting them into their own Discord.
And so we are reiterating there is a lot of underlying passive aggression and venom pointed at the person who released these screenshots to Charlie Gold, who is tweeting. Now, do we still call it tweeting if it's on X? Why did we change the name?
One of the main things I need to address is the money. So a bunch of screenshots were shared, and it's me being very fucking cocky about how much money I've made doing Girl World content. Hey guys, I turned this video around pretty quickly, so you might get some editing Rachel bits here and there, and particularly when it comes to showing receipts, because I'm just going to chuck my own voice in over the top.
So this is something that Rachel almost never does, if ever. I can't recall. I haven't seen a huge amount of her videos to be able to speak confidently about what she usually does, but this is also indicating that she is doing this in a very hasty fashion, where her videos are usually very well thought out and very calm and very well researched and delivered in a very poised way. But now we've got these voice overlays and quick editing, and this is rubbish that this mother clucker does, right? But it's all just indicative of what's going on here. Now this screenshot, I have a bit of a higher res one here that I'll pop in. This is between Jawbone and Rachel, and I do think that it indicates their humor. I think you can see what's going on here. So Jawbone said, "I'm not suggesting you watch it as it's pointless, but Geordie has said that you offering to pay in exchange for tea is not a big deal and isn't sure what the fuss is about. So that should clear the air a bit for you. Fair play to him." Rachel responded, "Love that from Geordie." Jawbone said, "So you're not really being publicly hanged, drawn, and quartered, diva. Rest easy." Rachel said, "If Geordie says it's all right, then I'm off the hook. Teehee. I'll wipe my tears with banknotes." Now, this is the screenshot that got a lot of people very angry. That line there, "I'll wipe my tears with banknotes." And I get why people don't like that. I really do. But I do think if you see this, you can see that there's humor going on here. Jawbone's clearly trying to make Rachel feel better about this situation. She's been getting a lot of hate from supporting Emily, or quote unquote supporting Emily. And I think that the air is trying to be kept light in this. So I don't think this is as damning as what everybody would like it to be. Maybe I'm not being interesting. This is my boring take, but that's what I think about this.
Obviously, from this one screenshot, it's not immediately clear, but the vibe that Jawbone and I have, I don't know if you guys have seen any of Jawbone's content, but he's a joker. He says things tongue-in-cheek to take the piss, and that is how I spoke back to him in this Discord. Of course, I felt I was among friends, so when I made that comment, I was not talking about Beck. Beck was not relevant to the conversation.
To me, I felt that was clear. I don't think she's trying to pull the feathers over our eyes there. I think this makes sense to me. And as I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with people paying for tea, like in this sense, and like in the context that Geordie was speaking about in his live stream. But I think the way it's done and the transparency that is behind it matters. I think if you want your integrity and your reputation to remain intact, that is really important. I don't think Rachel will make this mistake again, though. I don't, for the record.
Of course, the screenshots were shared with no context, which doesn't help because they were like grabs of wider conversations. I mean, we would talk like all day about a certain thing. So one screenshot of one section of a conversation doesn't really help anyone to kind of understand.
But this is the internet. This is how the internet works. Rachel is old enough to know that this is how it works. Like, she would surely be... Oh, probably shouldn't say that. I probably shouldn't age her. I may have just been about to insult her. Let's say I think she might be younger than me, but probably not that much. And I think millennials have grown up with the internet. We know how it works. We know how things can be taken out of context. We know how people are. And especially being part of a drama community, you know that everything's kind of fair game, right? And so I struggle. I think what happened is Rachel got very caught up in bringing something new to Girl World that nobody had seen, that people wanted to see. I think she got caught up in the, like quote unquote fame of it. I think she got caught up in the money that she was making. I think she got caught up in the excitement over getting more subscribers, because I think she got like 10,000 within a few days. I think that's what happened. I think she got a little bit bold. I think she got a little bit carried away. And I think these screenshots, these conversations and the way they were had, I think is the result of that. And to be quite honest, this is a mistake that any one of us could fall into.
No Girl World content creator who pulls any number of views is only doing it for the love. People don't sit in their office and edit for like hours and hours and hours a day just for fun. They do it to make money. And every content creator, if you ask them if they're honest about it, they'll say, yeah, I'm doing this to make money. One of the reasons anyway is that they're doing it to make money.
Okay, so this is the first of a few blanket statements that she makes that I do take exception to, and especially from somebody who is so focused on philosophy and perspective and critical thought. So this is, I think, one of the biggest tells that we can see perhaps the real Rachel that's sitting behind the philosophy character that she has on screen. Because to sit there and say that nobody sits there for the love of it and that everybody does it for the money. So does that mean that although the money is a byproduct, just because I'm doing this for the love, I should say no to the money? And especially in the case of YouTube, I don't know if might not know if you're not a creator, even if you don't monetize a video, YouTube will still put ads in that video. So if the viewers are going to be subjected to ads anyway, then why would the creator not take the money regardless of their motivation for doing the video? And I can say hand to heart, my nuggets, even if I was sitting here with my 86 OG nuggets and that was all that was watching me, I would still be doing these videos because I do love sitting there all night editing and getting my perspective out, and maybe just helping one nugget. That's what makes it worth it. So I don't like these blanket statements. I don't like being pigeonholed, and I know that she's not pigeonholing me personally, but the big blanket broadcast statements do kind of enforce application to everybody. And that is not historically what we've known Rachel to be or to say. And it's just those fuzzy edges, right? It's just the wearing that we're seeing on her psyche from this experience.
Now, and it's absolutely true that that is one of the reasons I make these videos. The person who revealed all of this stuff themselves also said the same thing. When they revealed these screenshots, said, it's going to be a good November for me. So that person also does it for the money.
And just to continue her point, there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing this for the money. There's all different kinds of reaction channels, all different kinds of channels, all different kinds of motivations out there. It's absolutely okay that Rachel does this for the money. It's absolutely okay that she wanted to deliver the tea for the money. And I do think it's important to be honest with your own motivations. And I know that Geordie's one of those too. It's absolutely fine, no problem. But I think she's kind of trying to tar the other person with the same brush just to try and divert a little bit of the heat away from her. Like, you guys hate me. I get that you hate me, but you should also hate this person because they're just the same, right? Even though they're delivering the tea that's entertaining you, hate them too.
What's not fine is me saying a bunch of stuff like, oh, I'm going to wipe my tears with banknotes. The context of that conversation and all of those conversations were I was getting so much shit for offering Emily money to get tea or receipts out of her. And everybody was really, really mad at me. I was trying to make myself feel better about the situation. And I completely admit and accept it doesn't look good at all.
I think that part is really good. That is taking accountability. Amber could take some notes from this. It's really good. I really believe that this is how she wants to feel. I think that this is kind of, I'm not there yet, but I want to get there kind of statement. And to say that what she said is not okay, I do believe that Rachel is going to be the sort of person that does learn from these mistakes. I think that she will try to avoid this in future at all costs. And I think to a point, this is kind of something that every creator has or will go through in their career where something is taken out of context or it's just not received well by the audience. And I've certainly been there. I know that many other people in Girl World have been there, and it's kind of just part of it. But this is a very extreme version. So for her to sit there and take accountability for that, while I don't feel like she's fully there yet, I think she wants to be. She gets some credit from me for that. As I literally said in my last video, there's power in being able to say, I was wrong, and take accountability for what you did, and then grow as a person. And that's why my channel, I emphasize that we always want to leave room for people to grow, regardless of how many times they've faltered in their past. We want to be able to give them that space to go, yeah, I clucked up. I was a cloaca, and that is a mistake that I never want to do again, rather than just condemning them in that moment, which doesn't give them any room to grow or any incentive to grow in some cases. And I just think, while I do not agree with the conduct that Rachel has done, there are quite a few areas there that she needs to learn from. But I don't think that this is an irredeemable situation. There are irredeemable situations, which means, my nuggets, that there is a line somewhere, right? I'm sure that we can all think of examples that are irredeemable, but is this one of them? I don't think we're there yet.
So I just think it's important, and I do think it matters, that I decided the right thing in the end. People are allowed to go through a thought process. They're allowed to spitball their ideas and thoughts off the people around them before they come to a decision. That is healthy. What is not healthy is taking screenshots of that conversation, sharing them, and trying to spin a different point of view when you yourself don't know the context and haven't seen the wider conversation.
She is seething, my nuggets. I would put good money on this. She is seething. This is another attempt at a misdirect and another attempt at kind of tarring that other person with the same brush. Because in one breath, she'll say, I take accountability for this. I was wrong. That was absolutely shit of me. But then in the literal next breath, but that person can't be doing that either. Even though we know full well, and even though she says later that this is the area that we're in, this is what we do, this is part of it, she's probably feeling very embarrassed that she was naive enough to speak the way that she did on a public forum without considering that it was in fact a public forum.
Screenshots have been shared that show me saying that I flirted with Emily to get the tea. And I did say that. The screenshots are real, as I've already said. And I think this is kind of funny, and I'm going to just touch on this now. So I wanted the tea. I run a Girl World YouTube channel, so getting receipts and proof about one of the girls is super, super valuable to me. It's valuable monetarily, obviously, because I make profit off the videos. All of that stuff is super valuable. My goal is to analyze the girls the best way I possibly can. So in order to do that, I want to see the proof.
So I think the vibe that I'm getting from Rachel is that she is a very money focused individual, which is kind of normal in a capitalist country, right? A lot of people just want to get as much money as they possibly can. But I think the biggest question here is, yes, she wants to get the tea, it's valuable, but at what cost? Because the cost is not always monetary. And especially in the way that I've experienced the commentary space to move, you're really only as good as your last video. And for what? She got a few grand out of it, but her reputation has now been sullied. So was the cost of the reputation worth the money that she got? And by the way, one of them got age restricted, so she didn't even get a lot. I guarantee you she did not get much money off that video. To further my point, a lot of you just saw what I went through with the Eugenia Cooney lawsuit. I broke that. I brought that and broke the story because a couple of big channels then went and made a video about it without crediting me. I've essentially been forgotten to history for that video, which, even if, you take her context where she is a larger channel in this space, so she would have gotten attention for that, it doesn't matter because everybody's going to be making videos about it literally that day, if not the next day. So was it worth? My point being, when you weigh up everything that went into it and everything that was lost and everything that could have been lost, was it worth it for a few grand? Are we that money focused that it's at any cost? And is that a good way to be? Just throwing out questions. You tell me, my nuggets.
And it is completely true that during my texting with Emily, I was much kinder to her than I might have otherwise been. I was much nicer. I was much more jokey. I sent some winky face. Actually, I don't even know if I sent winky faces, but I definitely was somewhat more amenable to her than I could have been because I wanted her to feel comfortable with me and give me all of the proof, right?
So I think the definition of flirting comes into question here. Now, my first reaction to this was, why are you flirting for tea? And that's because that's m- looking at it through my set of boundaries and morals as a married chicken, right? But then I remembered, actually, my aunt said to me when I was getting my driver's license, she said, "Oh, you've got to flirt with them. You'll get your license." And I'm like, "No, no, I will not be flirting." And she said, "Yeah, you just, you make small talk and you laugh at their jokes." And I'm thinking, to me, that's not what flirting is. And then after my examination for my driver's license, I got it. And but by the skin of my teeth, my nuggets, the guy said, "You drive like a granny and you need to take more risks." Anyway, side quest there. But afterwards, she said, "So how did you go?" And I said, "Yeah, it was good." We chatted and she said, "Oh, so you did flirt." I'm like, I don't, to me, that is not what flirting is. Making small talk and laughing with the person, to me, is not flirting. To me, flirting would be giving some innuendo or maybe some insinuation that something more could come of it. It's a little bit more intimate, it's a little bit more friendly than you might do to that normal person. I have a feeling that Rachel might be more in the camp of my aunt. And I'm really interested to know how everybody else classes flirting, but I think it might be worth keeping in mind here that we all don't think of flirting as the same thing.
So I described that as flirting in the Discord, and I probably stand by that. I definitely did flirt with her a little bit. I don't give a fuck about that. I think flirting so that you can make more money is totally normal.
It's totally normal. I think that this is another blanket statement, and it's not going to be the last one. Again, from a philosophy perspective, I think that this is enforcing her own perspective on everybody else. I think flirting to make more money is not necessarily normal for everyone. I do acknowledge that there are going to be certain industries where that's standard, but my nuggets, I've been in sales and I was successful in sales and I did not flirt my way through sales. So I think that this is really kind of telling on herself here. And you tell me, you're all adults with careers or education or different situations that you have to be in. Is flirting to make more money normal to you? And there's absolutely no judgment if it is. I'm just interested to hear the ratio in the comments of whether it is or not. But these blanket absolute statements are not doing her any favors in this video.
People do it when they're bartenders, burlesque dancers, so many different professions. You'll be a bit nicer than you want to be to somebody because you're trying to get ahead in your career.
Yeah, so we're talking about bartenders and burlesque dancers as the examples. This is all we came to. But if you hear her language there, if you're being a bit nicer to somebody than you would like to be, well, is that flirting or is that being diplomatic?
This is one thing that I'm not gonna kind of recant on because I think that flirting with somebody is literally no big deal. I think that people having a huge problem with me flirting with somebody a tiny bit to get more information is like kind of weird. Like, why do you care who I flirted with?
Well, I mean, I can speak for myself. I don't care who she flirts with. And I also don't think it's a big deal if you are somebody who wants to flirt to get ahead. I think, if you've got it, flaunt it, whatever. It's your life. Live and let live. You do you. My personal set of ethics and boundaries within my channel, I wouldn't do it. I just flat out, for me, I don't consider that professional. But that is not to say in any way that I don't think other people should do it. It's like whatever you're comfortable with, right? I'm not comfortable with it.
Now, I understand the argument is that she's a death feeder and that's why I shouldn't have flirted with her. If you saw this alleged flirting, you'd be like, oh, because it was literally nothing.
So she says that, but do you remember at the beginning of the video, she said, I'm just going to show you everything so everybody knows everything? Well, this flirting issue is one of the biggest issues, along with the, wiping her tears with banknotes issues. But if this is one of the biggest things that is being brought into question, was this a relationship with Emily? And she doesn't bring a single screenshot for that. Not a single one. All of the screenshots that she does provide in this video are all pertaining to the AdSense money and the reneging on the deal that they had. So one would think if we want to prove that the flirting was like nothing, and if I'm right in my assumption that her version of flirting is just being nice, why would you not show that? Why would you not bring that receipt in a video that you've literally entitled Exposing Everything with Screenshots? That would have been one of the key things to bring to the table. But we get nothing. We don't know what this flirting looks like. And given her reputation and integrity is in question, it could be anything from, like what we've said, that it could just be being nice to her, to, a full-blown relationship. We don't know where on the spectrum this lies. We just know that she has admitted to flirting with Emily during a business transaction.
If you feel that it's a huge deal, that's cool. That's your opinion, and you're genuinely within your rights to have that. And I support you having a different opinion from me, right? Because that's what life is all about. I'm not trying to be in an echo chamber, but I just want to say my view on my own actions in that situation is that me flirting with somebody to get more tea is really no big deal, and it happens in a multitude of jobs. And if you think it doesn't, you're objectively wrong.
Another blanket statement. I guess I'm objectively wrong, my nuggets. Let's just leave it at that.
People have said all kinds of wild and hilarious things about me and Emily falling in love. I think a lot of that was said in Amber's live, which I'm going to react to probably in my next video. But it's absolutely not true. I have a hard line that I'm not talking about my girlfriend. That is nobody's business. I do not choose to monetize information about my girlfriend or make my girlfriend public. So it is a hard line for me that I will not be discussing my girlfriend, my relationship. But what I will say is that this speculation that Emily and I fell in love or anything like that is absolutely laughable. And that is not what happened.
Okay, I was kind of floored when I heard that she had a girlfriend and all of this is going on. Now, I am aware that on Reddit there's some rumors going on that she told Emily that she had broken up with her girlfriend. I cannot verify that. I can't find any definitive information either way. But she mentions that this is coming from Amber, but it didn't come from Amber because these rumors have been going on for some time. This is not Amber pushing this agenda for once. So what do you think? It's looking suspect, is it not? I think that it can be explained away with a bunch of bad decisions, but it does look highly suspect for sure. And as for the girlfriend thing, I respect that she doesn't want to speak about her partner online. I know that I've been very vocal about my husband online because he's been such a he just gave me a meerkat look from across the room. He's been such a pivotal part of my growth, so I think he's important to discuss in my videos. From my perspective, knowing that she is in at least what it sounds like, a committed relationship, I think flirting on any level, unless it's been explicitly discussed in the relationship, is questionable at best. And every relationship is going to be different. Every individual is going to be okay with different things. But I can absolutely say that as far as my marriage goes, that would not be okay on either party's behalf. And I think it actually for me kind of puts it in a little bit of a different light, knowing that she has a girlfriend.
In this Discord, I shared screenshots of the conversation between myself and Emily where I tell her that I'm not going to be giving her the money. Someone has threatened to share these screenshots and they're getting all high and mighty and excited that they've got these screenshots, so I'm going to show them to you instead, and then that person can talk about them if they want to, just like every other reactor is maybe going to.
So we've got another bit of a passive aggressive snipe here, and I keep bringing up the passive aggression because I am building to a point that I think this might be her actual temperament. And that's okay. It's just that we've been presented something a little bit different. So she did put up the screenshots and I'll have them up. There's 11 of them in total. I'm not going to read through them, but you can pause the video if you would like. I do want to just bring your attention to one of them in particular though, because I'm not gonna lie, I actually think Rachel comes off quite bad in these screenshots. I think what it looks like, based on her responses to what Emily is saying, it sounds like they had a verbal agreement and then Rachel kind of just decided to change her mind based on a feeling that she got that Emily was talking to Amber again. And while I don't and this agreement never should have been made in the first place. I don't think Emily should get AdSense money because, you know, the viewers are watching Rachel's content in good faith that their support is going to Rachel. But because the agreement had been made, is it right to just decide after the fact that you're not going to do it? After the video that had been agreed upon was going to be split in money had already been put out? It's a bit, it's ick. It is. And you can go through and read them all. She actually goes through each one in her video, so I do encourage you to go check that out. The response from Emily in particular that kind of made me go, oh, no, she's actually right here. Quote, Rachel, I need to be very clear. I did not consent for my personal experience to be used for profit or public content without fair compensation, because, of course, they had already agreed, which Rachel actually mentioned in her community tab post. You agreed that there would be payment in connection with the video, and I participated in good faith under that understanding. Redirecting the payment elsewhere, so to charity, without my consent does not remove your obligation to compensate me. And if they had this agreement, actually, it's probably not even a verbal agreement because if they've been messaging, it's in writing. The video has directly led to harassment and harm, including people contacting my family. It has not been beneficial to telling my story. You just acknowledged that you used my story, generated AdSense income, and that I've asked for it to be taken down. Continuing to keep it public while refusing payment is both unethical and a misuse of my story. So Rachel's argument for not paying was that she felt like she was being used as a pawn in the Emily Amber saga that's going on. But this had already been agreed upon. The only thing that changed was which video was going to be split. And the video that had been agreed upon was now out. And then Rachel turns around and says, no, I'm not going to pay you because as I think you're talking to Amber and I've put my reputation on the line. And I just don't know. I cannot be clear enough. This deal should not have been made. But once it had, how does this sit with you? Because I feel I don't like to be on Emily's side, and I feel like she's forcing me on Emily's side. Stop it. Stop it.
It's pretty clear that somebody who was in that initial Discord basically was mad at me because I said that I didn't like other content creators or I thought their content wasn't very good. And, you know, we're all allowed opinions, right? That's what the internet's here for. If I think somebody's content is mid and I say it, that's what I said. That's my opinion.
Okay, so this is new information at this point, and I do want you to keep in mind that she said this because I think Rachel wants to believe and wants to be the person that says everybody has opinions and that's great and we should all share them. I think she wants to be that person. I think the problem is she's not that person. And I think being really brutally honest with yourself about that is important to content creation. And also knowing when you need to step back, because I've mentioned previously in videos, I don't mind the negative comments on my videos because this is how people have decided to interact with my art form, which is putting up videos, and how it's made them feel. That does not mean that 100% of my life I am in a place that is ready to read and accept those comments. So I have to be honest with myself that, like, let's say 95% of the time, I am very open to people dealing with my content in whatever form they see fit. But maybe that 5%, I'm just feeling a little bit vulnerable, or it's just not for me. So I know not to check it at that time. But I don't think Rachel has fully reconciled with herself how to be that person that she's describing. So keep in mind, and I quote, "We're all allowed opinions, right? That's what the internet's here for."
And there you go. I'm not going to backtrack on my opinion just because you guys have all seen me say it, right? I think that this has shown that certain people take Girl World very, very, very personally. To me, that's not what this is. This isn't personal. You know, I'm reporting and talking and covering on what's going on. This is something I do that makes me money. And also, it's something I find very interesting. If someone doesn't like my content, that's completely fine. We're all allowed to have opinions, right? I don't think we need to be attacking other creators.
And I do agree with that. I don't think we need to be attacking other creators. I personally would not have volunteered an opinion on a creator that I didn't like. I think, not saying anything goes a long way, particularly when you're a public figure like Rachel is. So clearly what's happened here is she said something bad about a channel, somebody's gotten annoyed, and now they're releasing these screenshots about her. So Rachel is saying that this is not personal for her, but big giant chicken butt, until it is. Because she is saying essentially in this sentence, it's not personal. I'm just reporting on these, these women that are in Girl World. But it is personal when somebody takes my screenshots from a public forum and then posts them all over the internet and shares their opinions on that, right?
I personally think it's a little bit strange, and I've seen the people in this creator's Discord, they're all circle jerking and laughing and talking with each other, and it's hilarious because they don't even know how to read a date, and they're all excited, and there's loads of like moral grandstanding going on, and they're all really excited and happy and talking with their Discord buddies about the tea that they've gotten about me, when in fact they didn't actually get very much tea at all, and I just think that's kind of funny.
We're passive aggressive again. So what she has described about this person's Discord who released these screenshots is absolutely no different than what she was doing in her Discord about Girl World. So in Rachel's stance, and I'm not necessarily saying it's wrong, just follow this thought process with me. But in Rachel's stance, what she's essentially saying is, we're here to discuss Amber, and you're trying to discuss tea about me, and that's not right. And I can't help but feel that there's a little bit of hypocrisy there, because I certainly started my channel knowing that there was probably going to be a point in time where people started talking about my channel, and it's already started happening. And you kind of just accept that that's going to be part of the gig. You don't look for it. You don't need to pay attention to it, but it's going to happen. But Rachel, ethically in her mind, has drawn a line that these screenshots should not have been shared. That's what's going on here.
Final thing I'm going to do is talk a little bit now about just my channel, my content, talk to you guys as my viewers. So when this channel started, I started talking about Girl World, I started getting views, and I didn't know what the fuck to do. Like, I was literally like, this is crazy. People are watching me, I'm being paid for this, and I had no idea how to handle it, and that is just the complete truth.
I believe her here. I do think she's telling the truth. I think she's been very naive, but I do think she's telling the truth. So I pulled up her total subscribers for history on Social Blade, and it seems like she was doing some like piercing content or like unrelated to Girl World kind of content for some time, and she had plateaued at just below 10,000 viewers for quite some time. And then in November of 2024, she started doing Girl World content, and she had a huge rise in popularity from that point. You can see it has been quite dramatic, and especially just recently, she saw a little bit of a peak there. So it is, I do believe her, it is plausible, it's naive, but it's plausible that she really didn't know how to handle this, and she didn't know what to expect, and she didn't know what she was doing. I do argue that she should be old enough and have spent enough time on the internet even as her early channel doing whatever she was doing to get the 10,000, it should have been enough to teach her there, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a nice community, who knows? But this has clearly been mishandled. She's really upfront about that, and yeah, I just wanted to highlight to you that this has actually been a relatively short amount of time.
I was trying to be myself, but I was also very scared. I was like, I don't want people to dislike me. I don't want people to hate me. And I cared a lot what people thought about me. I absolutely did.
Ah, see, is that what I'm doing wrong? I do not care. This mother clucker is just being this mother clucker, and that's all there is to it. I think that it's important to hear what she just said, though. She cared and she was scared. And when this started kicking off, she wanted people to like her. And I think that is very telling about her emotional state when she started this channel. And maybe she didn't have time to be able to like maturely think through this. But as with everything else, she's about to completely contradict what she just said.
And I was trying to be myself and be real because I'm a very direct person. I say what I think. I'm comfortable making people feel uncomfortable if necessary. I'm not shy. If I say something, I generally stand by it.
So that completely is the opposite of what she just said. So in one breath, she's saying, I cared about what people thought. I was scared. I wanted people to like me. And then in the literal next sentence, she's saying, I'm not afraid to say what I think. I'm a direct person. I say what I think. So these two things don't go together. And these kind of discrepancies, I'm not saying she's lying. What I'm saying is I think that she wishes she was an alternate version of this herself that she's trying to portray. And I really think we're just seeing the man behind the curtain at this point.
If I'm wrong, I put my hands up and say, I was wrong about that. You know, I love when people disagree with me. One of the biggest markers of me knowing that somebody is a real friend of mine is that they will say to me, you're wrong about that. And I'll be like, oh, geez, am I?
So this is another point as well, because I'm about to make a point at the end of this video. So please remember that she said that she considers somebody that is a good friend to be someone that disagrees with her, to be somebody that tells her when she's wrong.
But at all points during this process, I was trying to do my best. I genuinely was. And I was trying to do it whilst also put myself publicly on a big public platform where thousands of people were watching me for the first time ever. And I fumbled it. I fumbled a lot of things in this situation.
I think this is a really good way of saying this. I think this is very accessible. I think it's very believable. I think it sounds really good. And it's taking the responsibility that we kind of wish we would see in other people, for her to sit there and say, I fumbled it. I had such a good opportunity, but I clucked it up. That is kind of what we want to see from people in this situation, right?
I just want to say to you guys, I've tried my best to handle this channel the best way I could, but I have absolutely made so many mistakes and I've learned from them. And I'm not going to be like scared off the internet. I'm not going to stop making content. I'm not going to stop covering the girls. So I'm not going to stop just because I fucked up, but I'm absolutely going to say, I fucked up. Here's what happened.
And I also think that that's good approach too, because I think when you consider the people that have actually been cancelled from the internet, it is so much more egregious than what Rachel's done. Rachel's done a relatively small mistake. I do think she'll learn from it. I think that's fine. The people that fully disagree with her and don't want anything to do with her will leave her channel as they are. Some of them might filter back as time moves on and this is forgotten, but it will be forgotten because it's girl world. This does not rank anywhere near on the scale of what can happen in girl world. And like it or not, the world is going to keep moving in this topic. And as I've mentioned earlier, I really don't think this is an unredeemable situation for Rachel, provided that she handles it better moving forward. And in my opinion, that is including this video. I think this video is also a fumble on her behalf.
If I didn't want to do it and I didn't want to be a part of it and I didn't want people talking about my face, my name, whatever, if I didn't want people talking about me and my takes and what I've done or whatever in their own communities, then I could just stop making videos. So I'm never going to be angry and butthurt at people, at you, for talking about me in your communities, because that's what I do. I talk about people in my community, right?
Except that she is extremely butthurt about the fact that people release these screenshots. So this is why I think there is a differentiation going on in Rachel's head about the screenshots versus being spoken about. Because she's been nothing but passive aggressive towards the person that did the releasing. But then she also says she's happy for people to tell her that she's wrong. She's happy for people to talk about her. And it's not lining up. I would love to know exactly why she thinks these screenshots are so bad for coming out. And I have to just fall back on, I really think she might be embarrassed about her lack of foresight. I think she probably regards herself as a very intelligent person. She regards herself as a very philosophical person and a very learned person. And I think she realizes that she's made a mistake that is very naive.
I'm going to continue trying my absolute best to apply everything that I've learned from this situation to the future, and we'll just have to see what happens, right? But I'm not going to stop making my content.
So a solid conclusion. Very solid. Sounds great, right? This is having the good feelings. This is taking the accountability. It's pretty much what we want to hear. There's just one more segment to this video that I think is telling.
So I think some more stuff is probably going to come out. I don't know who's going to release what. I don't know who's going to say what, but we'll just have to see.
And I think this is why we're not seeing screenshots of other things, because she is waiting to see what gets released from that Discord. She knows what's been shared on that Discord. She knows what she's said on that Discord, but she's basically waiting to see the other person play their hand before she releases more, which is also another example of not being transparent. So she's still repeating the same transparency mistake that she made initially with the money. And I think that that is going to really damage her reputation further. She is not credible at this point, and really what she wants to do is do everything that builds credibility. And she's kind of saying the right things, but it is coming off a little bit performative. And here's why I say that. So there have been things in this video that I've asked you to remember about the double talk, about the way she sees people's opinions, about the way that she sees people talking about her, about all of these wonderful things that, you know, she's so open-minded about. Before this video was released, and given what I know about editing and about the amount of editing that I know that she's put into this video, because she mentioned during this video that she had recorded an hour and 20 minutes, yet this video was only 45 minutes. So there was a lot of editing. I'm telling you, this takes time. So in between releasing and recording this video, Salty Crab did an upload addressing this situation and also the video that Geordie released on his live stream. And Rachel left the comment, "We have the bot date of you leaving, lying is futile." Now, if you haven't seen the Salty video, and it is good, it's worth a watch, she actually goes into the fact that she was invited into this Discord and she didn't do a lot of interaction in the Discord, which I think is Salty getting ahead of all of this cluckery that is about to rain down upon everybody who has been in this Discord. So she's trying to distance herself, which is understandable, probably smart. And she's saying, I didn't do much on it. And then when I saw the stuff about Emily, she kind of, you know, excused herself at that point. So what Rachel is alleging is that she can see the date that Salty Crab left the Discord server. Leaving the Discord server, that date does not indicate the date of interaction with Discord. So it doesn't even prove anything. But this comment has mean girl written all over it. It's catty, it's passive aggressive, it's everything that I feel we've seen trickling underneath this otherwise very well put forward video. And it's what makes me wonder. It puts a question mark over everything in my head. Salty responded in true Salty form, "Well, post it then, Rachel. Show everyone that I'm a liar, LMAO." anything to deflect from all the shit you've said. I do think there is misdirection and deflection going on here. Now, interestingly, just to highlight, I responded to a Salty comment. It wasn't this comment. It does seem that Salty did have a different comment up, removed it, and then put this one up. I actually liked the first comment because she went into saying that she liked Rachel's channel. She got a lot out of it, and she even learned some philosophy from Rachel, but now she feels that she's made an error in judgment. So I don't know why Salty decided to change those comments. Who the cluck knows? I don't know. I'm not reading into Salty in this video, so so with all of that on the table, what do you think, my nuggets? How does this make you feel? And do you feel, because I'm actually open to hearing what you say and opposing my perspective, do you feel that I've read this right? Or do you feel like I've missed the mark? A lot of this can be explained by bad decisions, but a lot of it can't be. And even after recording such a well-worded conclusion to then leave a catty comment, things don't add up. And I'm not condemning Rachel here. I think, as I've said in the video, I really think she's spiraling. I think she feels devastated. I think she feels like she's losing control. And I think she's trying to grasp at anything possible to make herself feel better, to stop the spiral, to gain any ground at all. And unfortunately, I think in these situations, the only answer to this is to write it out. It's like a panic attack, right? You just have to wait it out. There's no getting rid of it in the moment. You just wait and it will be over. And that will happen here as well. Everybody will forget this. But she does need to stop touching the poo. Anyway, if you're all still here listening to me, thank you so much. This has turned into a much bigger video than I expected. And I appreciate each and every one of you for listening. Comment never-ending nugget if you are still here, because this is a big one. And thank you so much to my cluckers. You will be happy to hear that the very next video I am recording and editing is members-only content. It is going to be expanding upon the physiology of the specific condition that Eugenia has, but it will be uncut, it will be uncensored, and I can say whatever the cluck I want, and I'm very excited about that. But that is all the clucks I have left to give. Stay golden, my little nuggets, and I'll catch you next time.
Hey! Hey! I'm gonna go watch another video. Let's go!